And welcome back from break. I hope you had a chance to stretch your legs. First up, we have Aaron Eagar, the State Weed Coordinator with the Utah Department of Food and Agriculture, who is going to be sharing with us how to use the data. Welcome, Aaron. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay? Did you unmute? Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great. Yeah, again, thanks for having me. I'm Aaron Eagar. I'm the State Weed Coordinator with the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. Today, what I want to do is go through and talk about how Utah at a state level, how we actually utilize the EDDMapS platform and the point data. So in this presentation, I'm going to cover a few things. First, I want to go through a little bit of the responsibilities of the state as far as the law goes. And then I want to go into some of the statewide programs with EDDMapS and our monitoring and our biological and how we tie the data points from EDDMapS to our other programs to get a better picture. And then just at the very end, go through a couple of program highlights, how we are using this to drive our decisions as far as where we're putting our money and have it being driven from the field instead of just from the office. So with that, we'll start with the slide that everyone doesn't want to see, and that is a slide about law. But I wanted to start with the Utah Noxious Weed Act because it really defines why we moved into the EDDMapS platform as the choice we made. And so we're not going to go through all of these, and you'll all thank me for that, but I wanted you to see what our actual law looks like. But we are going to hit on a few individual things. But to start off, our original map is here on the left. When we were collecting data in 2008, 2006, it was coming from various different sources, ArcGIS or Eagar, and we had a lot of points, but we didn't have a lot of specific information on the points. And so when we tie that to our law, and the law says that one of the duties of the commissioner is to investigate, designate noxious weeds on a statewide basis, we had to look at how do we get more data, more accurate data, and how can we utilize that data to make the best decisions on what we are going to regulate. The other thing was the commissioners, we have to compile and publish an annual list of which species are going to be regulated species and then put classes to them as to what the responsibility is based on what the class of that species is. So again, we were looking at how do we, if we're going to make good decisions and we're going to do any kind of enforcement or regulation, we have to have really good data so that we can back up what our decisions are. And continuing on with the commissioners, we're supposed to, or at least in the law, coordinate with our inter-county weed enforcement activities. So this on the left shows you all of our active CWMAs in the state. And then this goes right to our counties that we're supposed to coordinate with all of the counties. But additionally, we have a rule that goes with Section 103 that talks about that the county is responsible to report once a year to the Commissioner of Agriculture how well they have done the law or implemented the law. And so with that, we needed to say, okay, if we're going to require 29 counties to report whether they're meeting the law, and each of the counties are responsible for regulatory actions in their county, we really needed to look at tools that would be fair and equal across all 29 counties. So when we look at the creation in the law, Section 104 talks about the State Weed Committee. These are the agencies that are on the State Weed. We used the data points from EDDMapS to be able to help us determine. So when we decide or evaluating a species, whether we're going to list it or not list it, whether it's going to be a regulatory action, all the way from seed to our nursery program across the entire state, we really need to be able to see invasiveness, distribution, the ecological impacts, and then what are the potential legal mandates. And not only in the state of Utah, we've got to be able to look at the states that are surrounding us to go, what's coming our way, how long till it potentially can get here. And so we use the EDDMapS platform extensively in helping us determine how we're going to list and regulate species. To give you an idea of what this looks like, So you can see the state of Utah. This one's Mediterranean sage. It's on our watch list because we know it's close to Utah and multiple points, but it's not a regulated species. But it gives us a view. And as Chuck said, EDDMapS is one of the main or the largest aggregator of data from various different programs. So it gives us a good view of what's in other states. And then here's another one. This one is Malta star thistle. We knew it was down in Arizona and Vegas area, and it just this last year came into our state. So as we're watching this and we're using EDDMapS to help us make a determination at the state weed level, we also have the ability to start appropriating money, knowing that it's going to come into our state at a given point, so that we truly can treat this as an EDRR and put a program together, or maybe even you do a multi-state where prior to it coming to Utah, we get with Arizona and say, hey, we have some money. What can we do to do some treatment? The last one on the law is just the weed control supervisor. This is actually written in our law that the county shall examine all land under their jurisdiction, and then they shall compile data on all infested areas. So if this is their responsibility, it's not a choice, they have to do it. We have to be able to give them tools that make it easy regardless of the size of the county. So one of the ways in that I use this a lot, and this is where we'll jump into the use of this. So this is a query that I do quite often, and this is for 1 year from 1/1/21 to 1/1/2022, where I can look across the entire state and I can see what are the new points that are coming in with red, which ones have been treated, which are yellow, and then the eradicated, which is green. It gives me a lot of flexibility. I can do this per species. I can do it for all 54 species. I can do it for multiple years or even a month if I want to. But it gives me a quick view, and it also creates a nice graphic that I can use when I am presenting to other people. It also, tells me the amount. Rebecca already went through this, but there's a lot of information for that 1 year. I can see there's 42,164 infested acres, and then how many locations. And so at a state level, I have the ability to quickly look up information using that query and see what's happening across the state and how the counties are doing. If I zoom in, and I'm going to zoom in up at the top of the state, top right of the state, and I'm going to show you this because this is a project that the state funded, and we offer a lot of funding. And if I want to go and check and go, okay, did this project actually get treated? Or how extensive was it? I can actually drill down, and I'm just going to click a couple times so you can see as I'm moving closer, I can see what area has been treated, how many points have been treated in that area, all the way down. Or if I want to get right to my project, I can look at this and say, okay, I did fund Dyer's Woad. It was treated by Justin on the 8th of June in 2021. It gives me really quickly where I can just look at the projects that I have, zoom to them, see what's happening with them, look at it from a state level. And I can also, on this next slide, and it looks like we're picking on Jerry today, but this is Tooele County. So I'm looking at only Tooele County. I can do a report for Tooele County for that same year period and say, okay, are they doing what they're required by state law? And I can see how many points that they have. They had 3,140 treated points in that year period, 297 positive, and then however many was eradicated. But I can do this for all 29 counties and be able to identify, okay, are the counties meeting the criteria? Are they not? Did I fund any projects in this area? And which on like this example we did, I know where it is. It's in that 1,519. And I could zoom right in on that yellow spot and go, okay, what was treated, what species was treated, and did they meet the obligations of the contract that I gave them? The other thing that is really handy, and this has been brought up a couple of times, is the dashboard. So I can look at this dashboard and look at the state of Utah, and I can see in any given period of time that I want to look at which counties are actually reporting data, whether it's treated data, new data, eradicated, and get a feel for who's doing what at any given time. I can also look and see there's 2 counties that no data has been entered for those 2 counties. And that gives me the indicator as the state agency that You know, maybe they need some help, maybe they need some additional funds, maybe I need to get a CWMA more involved in that area. I can get a conservation district involved. It allows me to quickly see where help is needed throughout the state. The other information that it gives me in this dashboard, which is really helpful, is I can see by species up on the left how many points that have come in. I can look at the top right. I know who is putting those points in, who the actual people are. I can look at the bottom for a given period of time. I can look at what percent is being treated, eradicated, positive, or negative. And this is really helpful when I'm meeting with legislators or with the Commissioner of Agriculture or with funding groups to be able to show that we are making progress in the state and that we are tracking this data very specifically. This slide is a little bit weird, but I wanted to show it to you because it kind of hits to the point. Each one of these bars represent one of the counties, and this is 29 counties, 29 bars, but what is the estimated weed control budget for each one of the counties? And so you can see the difference. We have some counties that have over 600,000 in their budget, and then we have some counties that only have 20,000 on the far right. And so when we were looking at the EDDMapS platform as being able to use this, some counties have a full GIS department. They have a lot of resources to be able to collect data and then use that data and report it back to the state. But then we have some counties that only have part-time people. So the EDDMapS became very useful to us because it leveled the playing field. It doesn't matter how much your budget is. Anyone can go out and take data and report that data, and then also report different attributes of what that data, what's happened to that data. So I wanted to show that's the current situation we're in, and EDDMapS has been very good to level that playing field across the state. On an individual level, it has been very useful. We've been able to get, I think we have over 300 people in the state now across the entire state who are taking data and putting it in the system. This is an example of a lawn care specialist who put data in, which was very helpful for that county because they didn't know this actually existed there. And so even at an individual level, we're increasing, and the more data you can get and the more accurate the data, the more easier it is for the state to make its decisions on funding. And I'm not going to go too much. You've all seen the app, and this is kind of the beauty of it, is you can just take this information on an app, whether you're a county, an individual, or state agency, and collect data and have it verified by each one of the counties. In the state of Utah, each county supervisor is the verifier. They have to release the data that is in their county. They own that data when it comes in. One of the other things that we have implemented over this last year is the photo point part of EDDMapS Pro. This was something that we really pushed that we would have the ability to have so that we could tell a better story. And that's one of the things in my position is I might only have 25 seconds with the legislator. I've got to be able to tell a story well. And sometimes data is a great way to tell that story. Sometimes a picture is way better. New feature with the EDDMapS Pro is just brilliant on how it takes you right back to the same spot. And I want to show you an example. So here's an example. You can see all of the thistle out in this field, and over here on the left-hand corner, this app will take you right back to the same spot. And you can see you're able to show a complete transition, which is very convincing for me when I'm trying to show how we spend public money. Are we being diligent with that money that is being given to us? And so that's very exciting. It's one of the other tools that I am using at a state to really tell our message as far as funding goes. So now I'm going to show you how we take all of that data. We have over 200,000 data points across the state of Utah, and we use it to drive some of our other programs. So we have a statewide monitoring where we're determining where we want to put monitoring based on the point data that we have and where projects are, and then based on the species. So we're able to map where our monitoring, all of our transects are. We put them down, and we put them down for 5 years. And by doing this and looking at the EDDMapS points and the attributes of the EDDMapS points, plus what we're gathering from our monitoring transects, we are at the point where we can start statewide saying we're looking at a 47% reduction of invasive species or a 30% increase in relative native plant cover. which is really nice when you're trying to track how money is being spent and then be able to put an indicator of how are we doing as a state. All of that monitoring that is done through those transects is put into an individual report that we can back up our claims. And now we have data from EDDMapS, and we have monitoring data on the ground, and we have those pictures that are tracking it from season to season to demonstrate, what is actually happening. The other thing that we do is we can tie all of our biological. So for all of you out there that are doing biological control, you'll understand this really well. So we have all of our biological points. We map them with our monitoring and with our EDDMapS points to know where we're releasing these insects. And then we also, and that's on the left, and on the right is our SIMP monitoring spots. So we know where we're monitoring to see the effectiveness of those. And we release an awful lot. Last year we had 864 releases. Over 86,000 insects or agents were released. And then with the insects, with the biological, we also do reports. So every month a report comes in, what was released, where it was released, is it tied to a SIM plot, is it tied to weed map points, and is it tied to mon? But again, the base of all of this is we have to know where the point data is, where those species are. And so then finally, it allows us to then combine all of this. So we can look at our monitoring, we can look at our biological, and then we can turn on the hotspot for all of the weed points and make sure that we're making good decisions with our biological and where we're monitoring. That most of our releases are on the perimeter to kind of attack it as an EDRR. So we do the treatments inside the heavy infested areas, and we're using biological, and we're doing our monitoring more on the perimeters to hold or contain that from spreading further. But it gives us an awful lot of data that we can use now, and we have all of the backup data to show how successful these programs are. So just to look at more of the project highlights, we have 202,000 data points, 1.5 million acres infested. But the important thing is the information that is displaying on the right. Now that we have all of the coordinates and everything about it, it allows us a ton of power in how we want to manipulate this data to make our decisions. It also gives me the ability to take that data out of EDDMapS and then run acres treated. And then I can pair acres treated based on partner funding. And then I compare that to requested amount versus available funds. And it gives me the ability to show legislators and different groups that, we need more money, that our cause is good, and that we're being very successful in how we are utilizing their money. And the only way to truly get this is if you have that point data. The other thing that it does is, and this is real important, when we have all of those data points, it allows us to pull all of our state indexes. So our indexes are water quality, wildfire risk, grazing allotment. We have wildlife, and then sage grouse. And so we pull those indexes, and as projects come from one county or one side of the state to the other side, and I'm making the evaluation of which ones I'm going to fund or not fund, it gives me the ability, because I know the exact point of that species that they're asking to treat, how does it mesh with our state values, with our critical habitat for mule deer and elk, and is it in a fire, high likely of fire. We also look at transportation corridors, and it just allows us, or me really, to identify which projects we are going to fund, what value that has, and then I can report back on it. And again, that's just so that we can say we're diligent in how we're spending taxpayers' money. Are we making the best decisions we can? And prior to the EDDMapS platform, if you go back to that first map I showed that was just all red dots, it would be very difficult to even know if any of these indexes were relevant in what we were funding. So, and I will wrap up with just saying, so I hope you can see we use at the Department of Agriculture, I use the EDDMapS points in a variety of ways. We use it to determine how we're going to fund. We use it to make sure that the counties are meeting the state law. We use it to help CWMAs and conservation districts and other groups that are struggling. We can see that fairly quickly. And then probably the most important thing, it gives us a view as to what's coming to our state. And, so that we talk of EDRR a lot, but it's been very difficult to really do EDRR unless you can see what's on your perimeter. And so it gave us a great opportunity to say we now can start tracking what's coming and prepare for it, have money available, have people ready to, to stop that from entering our state or to work with another state. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for Chuck and company for giving me the opportunity to do this presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. That was great. You do have a couple of minutes, a couple of questions in the Q&A, but I'll let you type those answers just so we stay on time today.